Southern Africa's finest source of quality engineering components and expertise. BMG.
From Creamer Media in Johannesburg, this is the Real Economy Report. In our top stories this week, we discuss solar photovoltaic technology for Africa. We look at the role of the South African Air Force in stimulating the country's technology base. And a US company announces a world first for the South African mining industry. Solar photovoltaic technology has not been included in the initial renewable energy feed-in tariff system, largely because of the high costs involved. Christy van der Merwe takes a closer look.
Although not included in the current refit, producers of PV panels and potential project developers say that it should be included under the tariff. This will boost demand, which will in turn lower production costs. Globally, costs of solar PV panels came down by 30% in 2008, largely because of the increased demand following regulatory changes. Could South Africa establish itself as the African solar PV hub?
I think we see throughout the rest of Africa in particular, there are enormous benefits in terms of growing the solar PV market. South Africa has reasonable rates of electrification, but in many other countries throughout sub-Saharan Africa, electrification rates are actually very, very low, and there are many rural communities that rely on off-grid technologies such as solar. Now, if the market can grow in South Africa has an opportunity to export technologies and skills throughout the rest of Africa to actually help grow the market.
It's important to note that with solar PV, many of the jobs are post-production, and a manufacturing facility is not necessarily where all the emphasis should be.
Manufacturing facilities for solar cells and modules are very much automated today. For crystalline cells and also thin film cells, there are not so many people working on the lines. It's more or less highly automated. And experience has shown from Germany that out of all the jobs which are created in the solar industry, 90% are after production. Yeah? So means they are spent on installation, on sales, on logistics, on warehousing, etc., etc.
Sharp manufactures 3 different kinds of solar photovoltaic panels, each with different benefits.
At the moment, I think we can distinguish between 2 main technologies. One is the crystalline cell technology, where you spend a lot of raw material to create a crystalline cell. And typically, we have 48 cells or 60 cells in one module. And here we distinguish between polycrystalline cells, which are a little bit bluish and lower in efficiency, between 13-14% on a module level, and monocrystalline cells, which are a little bit grayish, where the crystals are arranged more uniformly, and therefore the efficiency is higher, between 15 and 16%. And in contrary to these crystalline technologies, we also have the so-called thin film technology, where you basically have a piece of glass where the crystalline cells are deposited on the glass with a plasma process, and the thickness of these layers are just 5 micrometers, so it's very much resource saving, and we do not need to spend a lot of silicon. And the efficiency levels are a little bit lower, like 8.5 to 10%, depending on which product we are looking at. However, the cost benefit is much higher because we use less resources. South Africa has a lot of sunshine, a lot of irradiation, and therefore, because of this large amount of sunshine and the warm temperatures, we definitely recommend to look also at thin film technology.
Southern Africa's finest source of quality engineering components and expertise. BMG.
The South African Air Force is a high-technology force, and this benefits the country. Keith Campbell has the story.
The South African Air Force is not only a user of high technology, it also strengthens South Africa's technology base. It produces highly skilled maintenance personnel and stimulates local high-tech industries. The Chief of the South African Air Force, Lieutenant General Carlo Gajano, explains.
I think over the last few years we have brought in substantial technology into the country. If you consider our newest acquisitions from the Augusta A109 the Lynx Mark 300, the Hawk, and the Gripen aircraft. They are all state-of-the-art and the newest technologies on the market. Let's take the Hawk, for instance. The avionic suite of the Hawk was designed by ATE, a local South African company. They qualified the avionics. It was test flown in South Africa. So there are numerous companies around South Africa which are involved with now maintaining the technology, and as we speak already start looking at upgrading the technology. I can only think of Danell Dynamics, which is designing the 8-arter, which will be a 5th generation infrared short-range air-to-air missile, which will be integrated on Hawk and Gripen. So we can see that the new acquisitions really had a huge impact on technology in the country.
US company Joy Mining Machinery has launched its first Smart Services Centre in South Africa. Jonathan Fourie reports.
In an effort to become a company that provides products as well as services to the mining industry, Joy President Edward Dahoney comments that the South African industry is a perfect launchpad for its Smart Services Centre.
We believe South Africa has the best infrastructure right now in service, the best relationships with customers, as well as the technology to make it successful. We're leading in South Africa because we believe we have the best chance to be successful with smart services, but our plans are to expand this to the rest of the world.
He adds that there are already discussions underway to establish similar centres around the world.
We're actually interested to look to expand this to our other 4 geographical areas, which would be the United States, Australia, Eurasia, China. The issue for us is to see which facility, which area that has the right infrastructure first. We're creating demand where we have customers asking us right now in the United States and Australia, and even in China, to bring this same service to those areas as well.
And now for a sneak preview of this week's Engineering News magazine. Read our cover story on unmanned air vehicles and how South Africa is in danger of losing ground to a host of competitors. We report that Transnet's rail and port volumes are likely to remain under pressure until 2011. And read about how Uganda plans to tap 17,000 megawatts from the controversial Nile Power program. And in Mining Weekly this week, we report that South Africa needs a clear energy strategy to ensure future coal requirements. A leading precious metals research house still expects the gold price to reach a fresh peak in the second half of this year. And read about plans to develop a new business model for the State Diamond Trader. That's Creamer Media's Real Economy Report. Join us again next week for more news and insight into South Africa's real economy.
Engineering news, not just for engineers.